Welcome to part 2. We'll pick up at slide 37. After the storybook exercise, it's time for participants to talk about the overall purpose of evaluations in districts and schools. If you are training face-to-face, you will make a chart to capture feedback on the questions on this slide. Leave the chart on the wall during the training to refer to as needed. If training virtually, you may want to have participants enter responses in the chat box as you capture a few on your notepad. You can have participants review the chat to see their colleagues' responses after your timed period is over, and then you can highlight a few that resonate with your own experience as an educator. Now, let's look at slides 39 and 40. Slides 39 and 40 provide support for what's in the rubric. This slide gives participants confidence that what's in the rubric is sound. Slide 39 that you see here shows a sample of the research used to support the selection of domains and indicators within the rubric. Slide 40 shows NAEP data, showing how Tennessee scored with the NIET rubric when it was implemented statewide, along with its emphasis on effective instruction. I'm now going to move to slide 41 that you see displayed here. Slide 41 sets the stage for how the rest of the training will progress. As trainer, you should read this statement aloud and ensure participants that by the end of day 3, the pieces of the puzzle will begin to come together. Encourage them all to take a deep breath before you begin the deep dive into the rubric on the next slide. On this slide, be sure to emphasize that training and implementation will move from procedural to conceptual knowledge, with the desired goal of deeper understanding and best practice. You may want to give an example of what procedural and conceptual knowledge might look like and sound like for educators, and what independence best practice might look like when the evaluator and the teacher begin to own the SCTS process and move from compliance to truly embracing the growth model and mindset. When you reach slide 45, seen here, be sure to emphasize the importance of the cause and effect triangle and how pieces of evidence should reflect what the teacher says and does and what the students say and do in response to the teacher behaviors. Both teacher and student behaviors should clearly support what the teacher established as the learning outcome for the class. After examining the triangle, you will lead participants through the sections of the workbook and handbook they will use throughout the 3-day training. This information is displayed on slide 46. As a trainer, you'll know when to have participants go to a particular worksheet in the workbook or when to turn to a section in the handbook, because you'll see a prompt on the slide or in the speaker notes, which will identify which resource to use. Please make sure you review the NIET slides and highlight when the workbook or handbook is needed. For example, prior to watching Mr. Campbell's lesson, you'll have to review the lesson plan. On this slide, you'll see a reminder that participants need to turn to the workbook on pages 13 and 14 to complete the exercise on the slide. So you should have that highlighted in your notes or tabbed so you'll know where to go when the time comes. Here is an example of one of the trainer slides that you will have access to when you complete the Train the Trainer. Notice on this slide there are speaker notes at the bottom and instructions that, after this particular activity, the trainer should have participants look at page 62 in the handbook. So don't worry, you'll have help in knowing where to go and what to do in the speaker slides. But you need to review your materials prior to training thoroughly so you'll be primed and ready to go. Please proceed to part 3.